Okay, guys, this is genuinely my fourth time trying to film this video. I've lost my touch, okay? But my goal is by the end of this video, you are gonna walk away understanding the Lantern Corps to its totality. So one of my favorite parts of the DC universe is the Lantern Corps. It is a sprawling space opera taking across many different sectors, times that probe many different things, particularly about the justice system, and allows us to interact with that part of our world and question our own moral standings on those things. And I love it, okay? Are some of my favorite superheroes the Green Lanterns? Yes, yes it is. Do I have the Green Lantern oath memorized? Yes, yes I do. Yes I do. Okay, I absolutely love it. But oftentimes when I'm talking to people through my content, in TikTok, all of those different areas, oftentimes people are so baffled by the Green Lantern Corps. They're like, who is Green Lantern? What does he do? Where does he come from? And like, what is going on? And so hopefully this video serves as a really good foundation stepping off point, as most of my videos do. Anyway guys, welcome back to the Genius Nook. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to get into it. I'm going to talk through basically how the Lantern Corps came to be, how the Lantern Corps works, how the ring works, the emotional spectrum, all of the important bits that needs to happen, how we can understand it, the comics that I recommend for this, and then also, you know, as we geniuses do, think about what this means in terms of the things that the books, the characters, and the stories are trying to tell us about the wider world. The Guardians of the Universe that reside on Oa basically looked at the world and was like, damn, this ish is messed up. We need something to help out. We need something to make this make sense, okay? We need something to control the chaos within the world. And so they went about and they started the Manhunters, okay? Very separate and different from the Martian Manhunters, but the Manhunters precede the Lantern Corps, the Green Lantern Corps specifically. Essentially, what the Manhunters did, they were objective, unfeeling machines, okay? And they basically went out and they were like police. They were monitoring everything. They were extremely objective. They didn't think about emotion. They didn't think about necessarily the individual's experience. And so they were quite effective. But the whole story about the Manhunter serves as a very massive commentary on like this idea of absolute justice and the justice system. Because despite the fact that they were unfeeling and they were quote unquote objective, who then decides this objectiveness? You know, the guardians of the universe. And this is something that we come up against multiple different times through multiple different storylines and with different Lantern Corps. Why do the Guardians get to decide what is objectively good and objectively bad? And that is what the Manhunters were probing. And then we have a rogue Guardian called Kurna. Kurna comes up again and again. Obviously a very big spin-off of like the Greek god Kronos, like the name kind of makes sense, but Kurna is a troublemaker. Again, throwing this idea that not even all of the Guardians of the universe, this isn't even plugged in. Not even all of the Guardians of the universe like agree and can come to a consensus. Okay, so Kurna pre-programmed the Manhunters, and then the Manhunters went on a massive killing spree in Sector 66. Okay, basically wiping out that entire sector, bar one or two people, including Atrocitus, who then goes on later down the line to start the Red Lantern Corps as an affront to the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians of the Universe for the loss of his home sector. And then after that, they were like, okay, so that didn't work. So actually, we probably do need people that are subjective and things and people that can look at things specifically to their specific sector. So they took the whole wide universe and divided them into 3,600 sectors. And within each sector, there are about 2 members of the Lantern Corps, the Green Lantern Corps, that are assigned to each sector, Earth being sector 2814. Now, within each of these sectors, 2 of these individuals of the Green Lanterns are given a Green Lantern power ring, which enables them to basically do all of the really cool things that we see Green Lanterns do. And how the power ring selects a person, the person has to have 2 of these necessary traits. 1 being the ability to overcome great fear, and 2 being willpower, because willpower is almost like, let's say, the energetic fuel to make what the Green Lantern rings call construct. Okay, and I want to emphasize this idea of the ability to overcome great fear. All of the Green Lantern members corps that we know of have shown this ability, not necessarily to not feel fear, but more importantly, when they feel fear, are able to overcome it and step and rise into action. Hal Jordan is a test flight pilot, and he shows time and time again that he is able to overcome his fear time and time again. If you look at Jessica Cruz, who's one of the much later Green Lanterns, I think comes in, around 2012, 2013. Okay, she proves that she's worthy of a Green Lantern ring because she steps in and saves and puts her life on the line and at risk to save the Flash's life. Okay, so as you can see, there is this ability, not necessarily to not feel fear, to overcome that great fear. Typically what happens and how a Green Lantern is chosen is when a Green Lantern is either incapacitated or of, like Abin Sur at the very, very beginning of Hal Jordan's story. Essentially, the Green Lantern also acts like this automated like honing device and basically goes around and scans the whole sector for people that fill those two requirements: the ability to overcome great fear and the ability to have willpower. Within the story of Hal Jordan and how he became Green Lantern, actually when the Green Lantern ring scanned the whole area, it was able to find two potential candidates, Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan. And actually the Lantern ring has this thing where it actually looks for the closest possible person to the last Green Lantern, and that was Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was just closer to Abin Sur's crash site, so therefore he was given the Green Lantern ring over Guy, who then gets it later on down the line. So after this, the Green Lantern ring then transfers and transports them to OR so they can get training and tested, usually by a veteran Green Lantern. In this case, we have Kilowog. And they then, after all of their training, after all of their tests, like Green Lantern boot camp, okay, they then go to the Guardians and are presented and like, hey, I'm ready to be a Green Lantern. They recite the Guardian Oath, and then they tend to be paired with a partner to begin to learn the ropes of how to monitor a sector. Hal Jordan was paired with Sinestro, and that's how we get their link and this very complicated story of how Sinestro basically destroyed his quarter, but we'll get there because I'm still trying to explain the universe. There are notable exceptions to this choosing of how the Lantern Ring chooses people. The first being direct appointments. So for example, John Stewart wasn't necessarily chosen by the ring, but he was chosen as a pre-selected backup for Hal Jordan before Hal Jordan even croaked. Okay, they were like, John Stewart, you know, the ex-military Marine SEAL turned architect, okay, they thought would be amazing, great willpower, ability to overcome fear, and in my opinion, one of the best Green Lanterns the Lantern Corps have ever seen. There's also two other exceptions, being one, there was one time that Hal Jordan, with his insane willpower, forged his own ring, so therefore he didn't have to get it from the Lantern Corps, he was able to make it by himself. And then finally, we have my favorite exception, which is Kyle, following the events of Emerald Twilight, where Hal Jordan basically wipes out the entire Green Lantern Corps on his own. Ganfet, one of the last remaining Guardians of the Universe, basically is looking for anyone. He's like, I just need somebody who is creative enough and not stupid enough, okay, to hold this Green Lantern ring. And Kyle just happened to be there at the right time, so he was given the last Green Lantern ring. So he's often considered a little bit of the accident lantern, but I find him the most enduring and his story, and he is my favorite Green Lantern. I say that with my chest. Okay, he was not tested, he wasn't selected, he didn't go through the selection phases that happened before. He was just there when they needed him, and he took on the role, and he did it amazingly. Now I've gone through how their Green Lantern Corps is selected, a little bit of how it's structured. Let's talk about the ring and the power system itself, because it is fascinating and it can feel quite confusing. Okay, you might feel like this ring is just shooting light. Okay, what is going on and how does it work? Well, in OR, there is a massive power battery, and the power battery basically absorbs all of the willpower for all of the creatures and beings in the known universe, and it stores this in this power battery. Okay, each lantern is then given a personal lantern which they can use to recharge their power ring, and their power ring acts as a conduit, using their physical willpower and also being charged up by the personal battery that is linked to the power battery, can then use it to create these plasma energy physical constructs that can touch people. Okay, but this energy within the power ring is finite, so it needs to be replenished, hence why everybody has their own personal power battery, so they don't have to go all the way back to OR to recharge and replenish their ring. Okay, the power ring can also do other things as well. It can act as a translator and offers environmental support. So for example, Green Lanterns are able to fly into space without spacesuits because the lantern ring protects them. They can go underwater, all sorts of things as well. It's a pretty cool, handy device. There are also other exceptions. For example, Jo Millen, which again is a Green Lantern that appears in the Far Sector comics, and she is given a specialized prototype ring that does not require power battery, but is rather charged by their own person's willpower. But a lot of other people, they don't have those kind of rings. Anyway, and the constructs are so cool, and one of my favorite little additional details when it comes to the Green Lantern Corps, you know, everybody's constructs are different, and it's a reflection of the characters themselves, and I'm sure that the writers have so much fun when coming up with the different constructs. For example, Hal, he used to be a test pilot, so a lot of his constructs are like aviation and like kinetic, versus Guy Gardner, who is just this absolute brawler, so he has like brute like football, baseball bats and crazy things like that, versus John, who an architect, and he used to be a marine, what do they call these? shooters, and he makes really precise constructs. Literally, if you look at his construct, every single bolt, you know, inside, his constructs are not hollow. His constructs are like some of the most structurally precise and the hardest to break, because he knows inside and out every structure, every nitty gritty bolt. Kyle, because he used to be a comic book artist, a lot of his constructs are like 3D animation, mythical creatures, you know, massive mecha tech robots fighting each other. So each of the different constructs of the different lanterns represents a part of themselves, a part of their creativity, because they are generated from raw thought. Okay, now we enter the era of Geoff Johns. Okay, now Geoff Johns is often cited as the comic book writer that has made the Green Lantern Corps as it is and how we know and love it now. He basically came in and was like, you guys have done so much, we're gonna retcon a lot of stuff. We're gonna shift, we're gonna change. And he basically introduced the idea of the emotional electromagnetic spectrum, okay, which is a cosmic energy field generated by the feeling and mental states of every living being in the universe. And they range from the color of the rainbow: red being rage, orange greed, yellow fear, green willpower, blue hope, indigo compassion, and violet love. And the whole idea is the ones in the center, like willpower, are the ones that you can control with clear mind. And then the emotions that go towards the ender or the furthest parts of the spectrum are things that are more corrupting and harder to control. Okay, and each emotional energy has a living embodiment or structure or creature that is able to supercharge, aka lantern ring. For example, Parallax is the embodiment of fear. The whale, I can't remember what it is for the Green Lanterns, is a whale. The blue is like a three-figured thing, so on and so forth. This becomes very important because for a really long time, post Geoff Johns' run, the Green Lantern rings used to have this really weird, unexplained, like, weakness to the color yellow. So they'd be fighting, and somebody'd throw them like, I don't know, a yellow hand cream, and then the constructs would break apart and it would make no sense. And basically Geoff Johns retconned that by saying Parallax, who used to be a massive enemy and the embodiment of the emotion of fear, the Guardians ages ago basically imprisoned the fear Parallax, the Parallax embodiment, in the power battery. And by imprisoning the yellow power, oh my god, Parallax in the power battery, it basically gave all of the rings a fear impurity, which eventually becomes overcome when they release Parallax from the green power battery. And so now they don't have that thing anymore and they can work against yellow. That was a lot. But from now, I hope you understand kind of how the structures work. In terms of how the other Lantern Corps came to be, they were all generated in very different ways as different offshoots. So, for example, the Yellow Lantern Corps was spearheaded by Sinestro in his attempt to overthrow the Guardians of Oa. The Red Lantern Corps was again started by Atrocitus, who was so annoyed by what happened in Sector 66, understandably, okay, that created his own Lantern Corps as an embodiment of rage. The Blue Lantern Corps was started by Gamfet and a few other Guardians, who then said there was a need for another Lantern Corps following the events of the Sinestro Corps War. We have the Violet Lantern Corps of the name Sapphire, which are the ones with the girl. Some people call them the Girl Lantern Corps, and I really protest that sentiment, but they were an offshoot of the Green Lantern Corps, where a bunch of them were like, you're trying to get us to restrict feeling certain emotions and we don't like it. So they went away and they then started their new Lantern Corps. So each one has their own individual storyline and how they started. But that is basically my whistle-stop tour of how the Green Lantern Corps serves and works within this world. My short reading order is you read Green Lantern Secret Origin. It basically was written to Geoff Johns almost as a flashback-esque style comic, and it basically introduces you to how Hal became a Green Lantern. It talks about how the Lantern Corps works in a similar way that I've done it. It introduced Sinestro as a key player and why the relationship is so complicated, what Sinestro represents, what he's trying to articulate, and all of that kind of good stuff, okay? You can read Secret Origin, then, okay, you can then read Emerald Twilight, which is basically follows after this massive event and Coast City completely gets wiped out. We then see how Jordan basically loses his mind. He's lost his entire home city and he feels really guilty about it. So he tries to reconstruct the city himself using constructs. And the Guardians are like, hey, beep, beep, you're not allowed to do that. And he's like, you know what, you Guardians, why didn't you stop this? What is your purpose if it's not to help bring these people back? Like, we have all of these powers. Why can we not bring people back? Which brings us to some of the ideas of the moral probings and some of the philosophical probings that I think the Green Lantern Corps is trying to probe. After you read Emerald Twilight, you can then go on to read the Green Lanterns Volume 3, number 51 to number 65, the Kyle Rayner volumes, basically, of how Kyle Rayner becomes Green Lantern, how he's struggling with it, how he's getting to terms with it. I always say people to read the Kyle Rayner run because he is the main Green Lantern in the early 2000s Justice League run that has all of the really famous stories, some of the most popular stories that then go on to inspire a lot of the animated shows and TV series. So I love that run, I really do. And Green Lantern Kyle Rayner is the main Lantern, and it also explains why so many of them have some slight resistance to Kyle Rayner. Following this, you can read The Final Night and The Day of Judgment. It shows how Jordan returning, him being fused with Parallax, him saving the world, and then this whole idea of him being fused with Spectre. So you're in the correct place to go from Green Lantern Rebirth. And then after you read Rebirth, you can then alternate between the Green Lantern Corpse line and then the Green Lantern story, following the rebuilding of the corpse with Guy Gardner, John Stewart, and the other Green Lanterns we know and love. And the main Green Lantern line is following Hal Jordan as he's trying to rebuild Crystal City and dealing with the problems on Earth, and they regularly interact until it all surmises into the Sinestro Corpse War. That is my recommended reading run. I will make sure I'll put down in the comments below. Ultimately, while this is an amazing story with a lot of detailed and amazing world building, I think the Green Lantern Corps, especially Hal's character, also often come into conflict and tension with the Guardians themselves, okay? Is this idea of institutional morality and true justice. The Guardians fashion themselves as this moral high horse, okay? They're like, we understand, so you're going to do what you say. We are going to decide what is good for the universe. We've lived forever. We know what's going on. And so therefore we should listen to them. But actually, a lot of the times and a lot of the most interesting conflicts to me are when characters come up and battle against the Guardians about what they believe and what they say. And this is beautifully illustrated by the creations of New Corps, okay? The creation of New Corps stems from the fact that the Guardians and a lot of the people who worked for the Green Lantern Corps no longer believe the Guardians can act as a massive absolute system of justice, okay? It is this commentary on our jurisprudence and our justice systems, okay? Very evidently shown by how they had, you know, the Manhunters, you know, this whole idea of, you know, having this objective thing, having this objective AI. Is this great? Is this worth it? Okay. They frequently hide things from the Green Lanterns, feeling like they're not ready or they're not good enough to know. Okay. Because they are the ones that truly understand good morality. And it causes you as the reader to question, you know, are the Guardians right? You know, their heart is in the right place, but are they correct? Or is this true justice? I think it really creates this interesting dialogue within a superhero comic, because it's not as easy as the superheroes are right and these are wrong, or the bad guys are right or these are wrong. It causes you to think about actually the institutions in which push, you know, morality and good and protecting people can often have conflicts, and you have to decide what is true justice, and can that be something that can be left down to the individual. Very, very Civil War-esque, okay? Another really interesting dilemma that comes up, okay, is that for a really long time, there was this lethal force like Ixnay by the Guardians being like, you can't kill anyone. Like, you can't lethally hurt someone. Like, the ring will disallow you to do so. However, during the events of the Sinestro Corps War, a lot of the Green Lanterns felt like they needed to use lethal force to win against the Sinestro Corps, okay? And this debate, again, is something that mirrors a lot of the debates going on with our military and justice systems in real life. Do we need to fight fire with fire, or are we escalating? Are we escalating things to the point of damage and harm to the normal civilians, or is this the necessary thing that we need to do to protect people? Again, these are these amazing commentary. As much as any other superhero group in DC, the idea of the Lantern Corps, the Green Lantern Corps especially, given the fact that they are supposed to be providers of justice, are massive commentaries on our justice system. And that is why I love them so much. And I find them so interesting, okay? You also have this idea of fascism and liberty with Sinestro's own tragic arc, you know, feeling that the only way to protect people was to remove their freedom. And how far is Sinestro wrong? You know, we see Hal and we side with Hal, but why do we side with Hal? Is it the way in which Sinestro enacts this kind of control, and how much of that mirrors what the Guardians initially tried to do in the beginning and some of the actions that are taking place in our real world? It's just a phenomenal story. I could go on and on forever. But anyway, I hope this video was super helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Guys, I'm back because I have so much time on my hands. I'm kind of going through this phase with my content where I'm trying to be very intentionally like, I'm gonna make the content that I think is cool. Unless somebody comments like, hey, we really want you to talk about this, I'm never gonna pretend to talk about something that I don't understand or I don't care about. But it's kind of hard because as you start kind of growing a bit of a following, I feel like this intimidation of like escalation, like, oh my God, like people like this video of me, let me do 10,000 of them, even though it feels inauthentic or quite unlike what I normally do. But it's kind of like, oh, like, do I have to kind of stay here? I don't know. Can you guys feel my dilemma? I feel like I'm really trying to prevent the act of comparison. I've met so many cool people and I see so many people doing really cool things. And I don't know, I also get FOMO. Like I follow people and then I like, I'm like ranting. I need a journal. I have a journal. I need friends. But anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back again soon. Definitely, okay, I'm in an R-ing. I haven't done a book video yet on Genius Nook. So I'm in an R-ing between doing a book video, doing a film video, doing an unfiltered video. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where that comes. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, that you comment your opinion on Green Lantern Corps or any heroes that you want to kind of talk about. What are your opinions on the Lantern Corps and its explorations of justice? And also a massive thank you to you guys who have been engaging with my shorts on this platform or on other short form platforms. It's just the easiest way to like make content regularly. I'm gonna make some science themed content too, because guys, like, fun fact, like I actually graduated from the University of Cambridge with a science degree and I just finished my master's in neuroscience and translational medicine. So I don't know why I'm not talking about science a little bit more. So I'm thinking of doing like maybe like the science behind like the mutants in X-Men. That would be a really fun video. Somebody's probably already done it, but nobody's ever done it like me. Okay, nobody's ever done it like me. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a brilliant day. I love you, geniuses. Keep staying nerdy, keep staying absolutely genius, and just keep being who you are. Thank you so much. Bye.